And welcome back to Matt Hayes' Tottenham blog and to another Transfer Talk live stream. Again today we're going to be going through the biggest news about Tottenham's potential incomings and outgoings in this transfer window. There's quite a few players to get through. There hasn't been too many major developments over the last couple of days, but as you can tell by the title, there has been a bit of news about Boubakary Soumare, holding midfielder from Lille, who Tottenham have been linked with quite a bit over the past couple of weeks. There's a potential development in that one, which I'll be getting into a bit more later in the stream. Also, kind of a recap on what's going on with players such as Victor Osimhen. He's another player from Lille, and the latest on the potential outgoings. The main ones there being, of course, Christian Eriksen and Jan Vertonghen. So before I get started with that, if you do want more Transfer Talk live streams and match reviews and stuff throughout the rest of the season, make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button down below. I'm also hoping to do a giveaway at the end of this month, so there's a link there in the chat to a post I put up on my community feed. I'm going to try and get to 2,500 subscribers by the end of this month, which I know might be a big ask, but if we can get to that milestone by the end of this month, hopefully we can give away something when the window closes. Welcome Emmanuel and Alan to the stream here. So I suppose getting into the main one so far, the headline one is Boubakary Soumare. Cameron joining the stream there as well. Now, the latest from Sky Sports with regards to Boubakary Soumare is that he's becoming increasingly likely to leave Lille this window. Now, Sky Sports, they have reported our interest in him quite a bit, but the three teams that they're focusing on with his potential departure are Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal and Chelsea. Now, the holding midfield position is one that has been spoken about quite a bit with our team this season. It's been a weak point in our team, to be honest, with Ndombele not quite settling in just yet. Sissoko been using quite a number of positions, and Winks having a really disappointed season so far. And as Jared is saying, we need to get rid of Eric Dyer. He hasn't been the player that probably Mourinho would have wanted from him this season. You know, Mourinho had a lot of interest in signing Eric Dyer when he was at his previous clubs. So Soumare is definitely a player that we should be looking at, I suppose. Like, we don't know too much about him, but when you're looking at the latest setup at our team in terms of the management, João Sacramento is someone who, of course, we took from Lille, where Soumare is right now. So, you know, if he is interested in him, it must be saying a lot about the player he is, and that's one of the main reasons why the interest that we do have in him wouldn't surprise me too much. Now, again, as I've been speaking about the potential of our director of football, as we know, that role at the moment is vacant, but we do know Mourinho, I suppose, when he was appointed at first, was looking into getting Luis Campos from Lille. And he's actually, Soumare was signed at Lille by Luis Campos, who found him as a free agent when he was with Paris Saint-Germain. So a bit of an update there. Soumare will more than likely be leaving Lille this summer, but Sky Sports not particularly optimistic that Tottenham will be his destination. Now moving on to another player from Lille, of course, Victor Osimhen, who's an informed striker who I think is only actually one goal behind Kylian Mbappe this season in the French league. Now Sky Sports have reported that Liverpool, Chelsea and Tottenham are all interested in signing the striker, but he more than likely will be staying at Lille beyond this window and will potentially be moving on in the summer. Now Lille have said they would be more likely to sell him if they did receive what they called an eye-watering offer, but you can't imagine they'll get one of those from Daniel Levy anytime soon. So Soumare more likely than Osimhen this window, but again, given the comments made by Mourinho and I suppose the varying reports coming out, I wouldn't be too optimistic about either of these deals going through, because, you know, Mourinho saying he's really happy with his squad and, you know, he doesn't feel like he needs to make signings. I know the majority of us fans would disagree with him on that, but he does seem to be pretty keen to keep the group together and try and work with what he has. Now, whether or not that opinion would have changed over the last couple of weeks with the dreadful form that we have shown, I don't know, but he hasn't said anything that would, I suppose, point towards the fact that he might want to sign new players. Whenever he's been asked about it, he said he's happy with his squad. He feels as though he's inherited one of the best squads in the league, and he does want to work with that. Luke Trineman asking, do you think we will sign Lo Celso? Cameron Williams saying no. Owen Evans saying yeah. I don't know, that's another one that seems to be a bit up in the air. The Real Betis president made comments towards the end of last month, kind of confirming the reports that there is a clause in Lo Celso's contract which gives Tottenham the option to sign him for £27 million this window, which would be on top of the, I think, £15 million that we signed him for on loan at the end of last summer. Now, that would, of course, bring the total price up to £42 million, which, given the fact that they were trying to hold out for about £65 million when we initially entered into talks with them, that would be a really good buy for us. Now, what the Real Betis president was saying is that he does expect Tottenham to activate that clause and to sign him this window, but he was unsure if Giovani Lo Celso himself would be happy with that move being made permanent. There are other reports that have said Tottenham are looking into it. They're obviously considering it, but Jose Mourinho hasn't yet been convinced by Lo Celso. So there's we don't really know what to expect because there's two very different reports coming out. I would assume we can take the comments from the Real Betis president a bit more seriously because, of course, he is right in there in the middle of that situation. But it's not entirely convinced just yet that Mourinho will look to activate that clause in his contract this window. Owen Evans saying, finalise Lo Celso and get Max Aarons and it will be a good January window. We can do more business in the summer for a centre-back as Jan Vertonghen still has the rest of the season. Now, Max Aarons, of course, a right-back who plays with Norwich at the moment, that Tottenham are really interested in. According to Sky Sports, the two right-backs that we're looking at are Max Aarons and Nordi Mukiele, who plays at the moment with RB Leipzig, who are our opponents in the upcoming Champions League tie. Now, Max Aarons, he's still only 20 years of age, but he's a consistent starter in that Norwich side. He impressed more so last season in the Championship, which you can kind of expect, but it was his first real season, full season in first team football, and he was one of the best players in the Championship. I think he won a couple of awards. He was in the EFL Team of the Season. I think he also won the EFL Young Player of the Season, which you don't see defenders win awards like that quite often, so it was a big achievement from him to do that. Now, obviously, even though he is a defender, he is a very attacking player, and he's one that would really fit into Tottenham's style of play. And if you're looking at the players that we could potentially be signing this window, I think he does fall into a lot of categories that we'd be looking at. First of all, he's a young player that is typically the type of player that Tottenham do sign. And with the way Mourinho has been talking about wanting to develop young players during his time at Tottenham, he would be a really good player for us to sign. Right back has been a position we've really struggled with this season. We were looking into a few right backs over the summer, the main ones being El Cid Husai and Hiraki Sakai. And Max Aarons' name was thrown around quite a bit as well. But we do need to improve our fullbacks. There's no doubt about that. Kyle Walker-Peters hasn't been seen anywhere near the first team for the majority of this season. Serge Aurier has been a major disappointment aside from the few games where he has been able to push on and play in more attacking positions. But that's not always going to happen, especially when we're in the form we're in. The fullbacks are going to have to do a lot of defending, and that's not what he's good at. So Aaron's fallen into the position that we need. He's the age bracket that we're looking for. He won't be too expensive. The talk is about £30 million, which may seem like a lot for a player who isn't exactly proven at the level that we need him to be at. But again, only 20 years of age, he can definitely push on and become a better player. So looking maybe towards the most likely signings this window, I would definitely put him up at the top of that list. The odds for us to sign him have actually been slashed in the last 48 hours. You can't really look too much into that, but it is another small indication that maybe there is some substance to the rumours that we will be looking to sign him this window. Now, a bit of news coming out about Troy Parrott today as well. It's not much of a surprise, really. Mourinho has been talking in the last week or so about wanting to tie him down to a long-term contract, and Sky Sports have reported today that he is looking to sign a new long-term contract, and that's set to happen next month. So again, another really young player, someone who hasn't been given the chances that we would have liked to see him get in the first team just yet. With the really strong lineup Mourinho put out against Middlesbrough yesterday, it was a surprise, and perhaps that was a game Parrott would have been looking to start, and as well, even further back, the last game in the group stage against Bayern Munich. He didn't feature in either of those, so Mourinho has also said he is too young to send out on loan. I think he's still only 17. So Mourinho not wanting to send him out on loan yet, but really encouraging that he could be set to sign a new contract at the next month if Sky Sports have got that one right. Bradley is saying Thomas Lemar would be a great signing, and this is one that has been kind of rumbling a bit for a few weeks, but it's starting to get a lot more traction now, and that is that we're looking to sign, we've been offered the chance to sign Thomas Lemar on loan from Atletico Madrid. Now, as far as I'm aware, they signed him, I think it was just during the summer, the previous summer. He's a French winger. I think he's 24 years of age. They signed him from Monaco the summer of 2018, and he's never really got going for Atletico Madrid. Just looking quickly at his stats, he's made 49 appearances and only scored 3 times. He was a player who was attracting a lot of attention when he was at Monaco. So perhaps it was a bit of a surprise when he did go to Atletico Madrid. They signed him for £60 million in the summer of 2018. Now, the reports are saying that we have been offered the chance to sign him on loan for, I think, £6 million, with the option to buy for £60 million at the end of this season. So it'll be a short-term loan, but the option will be there to make that permanent at the end of the year. this has been coming from, I wouldn't say it's been coming from the most reliable of sources. For me, the main one to look at would usually be Sky Sports News, and there's been nothing on there just yet. But I think the Daily Mail are the one that have been talking about this the most, and as you have to take everything they say with a pinch of salt. But even though he hasn't really hit the best of form since he has been at Atletico Madrid, he is a really quick, really dangerous wide midfielder. And if we are going to lose Christian Eriksen and potentially not get Giovani Lo Celso in that permanent deal, he could be a good option to bring in, even if it is just maybe for the rest of this season, to add something new to our team, a bit of energy, and maybe give a bit more competition to the players who do seem to have their places in the team nailed down despite their poor form. Again, it's not one that I'd be getting overly excited about. It's not one that I'd expect to go through, but it's definitely one to keep an eye on because it just doesn't seem to be going away. And I personally hope there is truth to it, but as I said, I wouldn't be getting too excited about it just yet. Owen Evans saying, don't need Lemar, he's not been great at Atletico since he moved, focus on fullbacks. Again, that's what it keeps coming back to. They're the positions that we wanted addressed over the summer, and it just never happened. Of course, sold Kieran Trippier, which is something we didn't want to see, and then didn't sign a replacement, whether or not that was something that Pochettino didn't want to do, or if it did come back to Daniel Levy. I suppose we won't really know, but it is definitely something that needs to be addressed because in the modern game, the fullbacks are some of the most important positions in the team. And looking back when we were at our best over this last 5 or 6 years, our fullbacks were pivotal. Got there, part of that with Danny Rose and Kyle Walker especially. And then when we did need to rotate in that 2016-17 season, we had players Ben Davies and Kieran Trippier who were able to step in and do the job that Rose and Walker did. And unfortunately, we just don't have that quality in the fullback positions now. As I've been saying, Aurier, just not the player that we expected him to be. Ben Davies out injured at the moment, and Danny Rose, we don't really know what's going on with him ever since he made those comments saying he'd be leaving at the end of his contract. It kind of seems to have fallen away for him. We have Kostakis and Albin coming to the stream here, welcome. Spurs fan saying, isn't Thomas Munier free? I'm not too sure about Thomas Munier, but I know there's quite a few players who are whose contracts are running out and they're available to sign on a pre-contract agreement at the moment, which would be the same as Christian Eriksen and Jan Vertonghen. But there's a real list of outstanding players that are available on a free transfer. Again, I'm not entirely sure if Thomas Munier is one of them, but if he is, it would be a great one to look into. A starting player for PSG ever since he signed from Monaco, I think, and he also plays for the Belgian national team, who are actually number 1 in the world right now. So he must be doing something right. Rilwan saying, which fullbacks could we potentially get though? I suppose for right back, the main one would be Max Aarons, as I've been speaking about. Fits into a lot of categories of players that we would be looking for. Not too expensive. He's young. He is attracting a bit of attention, but none from the biggest teams in the world. So if he was going to go for a team based on their stature, Tottenham would probably be the most attractive of the teams that he could potentially end up at. As for left back, I know Thomas Munier can play in left back. He can play in either side of the defence. But aside from that, I mean, it always seems to be the case. There aren't that many, I suppose, world-class fullbacks in the world. If you're looking at the left backs, the best ones that are out there, you'd have to say, David Alaba for Bayern Munich, Jordi Alba, and even Andy Robertson at Liverpool. But they're not players that we would be able to attract, players that we would be able to afford. So I think it'll be a case of buying a young right back similar to Max Aarons, just getting one on the other side. I haven't seen any names for left back thrown around just yet. But I'm sure as the window rumbles on, given the problems we're having in that position, there will be a few names starting to crop up. But I wouldn't be getting too confident about that being a position that the club do look to improve in this window. Bradley saying, do you think top 4 is possible still? I definitely think it's possible. The table obviously doesn't look too great at the moment. I think we're sitting in 6th behind Chelsea and Man United. The season hasn't gone the way that we would have expected it to. We're sitting 6 points behind Chelsea, 1 point behind Man United. The top 4, it's still possible. With the way the inconsistency shown by these teams, Chelsea, United, Tottenham, and even Arsenal, who are down in 10th, anything is possible with these. I wouldn't be surprised if Wolves end up getting that 4th spot in the top 4 because of how poor Chelsea, United, and Tottenham have been, losing so many games. I mean, Chelsea and Tottenham already lost 7, United have lost 6. That doesn't happen very often. Usually that would be the figures we'd be looking at towards the end of the season. So if we can bring in a few players this window, it would obviously go a long way towards getting that top 4 position. But I also feel Mourinho obviously hasn't yet got the team playing the way he wants to. So once that does settle in, if we can finish the season strongly, there's nothing to say that we won't get top 4. Chelsea's starting to struggle now under Lampard. They're a big boost for them having their transfer ban shortened to just last summer, so they could be improving in this window. As for United under Solskjaer, it just seems to be with them, they go on a really bad run of form and then they win 2 or 3 games in a row and they look to have a bit of momentum and they kind of get a bit ahead of themselves and they're brought crashing back down to earth with a defeat to a team like Watford, of course they lost to a few weeks ago. So it is so hard to predict what's going to happen with that 4th space in the top 4, but I wouldn't rule us out of it at all. I do think it's still a possibility, but I wouldn't say it's a probability. Gary Shaw saying we need Hakim Ziyech from Ajax, and again he's a player that so many teams are looking into. Of course, after that run to the Champions League semi-final last year, he's one of their standout players, and he's a really skillful, technically gifted player who most teams will be happy to have in their squad. He's 26 years of age, but I think he would be kind of in the higher end of the price that Tottenham might be looking for to pay for a player. Mourinho has already ruled out the Bruno Fernandes transfer because he will just cost us too much and the money isn't there to make a signing like that. So unfortunately, I do think Ziyech would be in the same boat as Fernandes, and while it would be an outstanding transfer and one that I'd love to see happen, I just don't think it is likely. And personally, I was surprised that he stayed at Ajax beyond last summer. Real Madrid were looking at him, but whatever way things worked out with them, and I think the Christian Eriksen saga was linked to that a bit. They ended up not getting him, and he's still at Ajax, but there's a number of players at Ajax who I think will be leaving over the next maybe 6 to 18 months, and it's just whether or not we can manage to get any of them is going to be the question. And we've had a really good link with Ajax with transfers over the past, Eriksen, Vertonghen and Davinson Sanchez, players we got directly from them, and Oliver Ireland, another Ajax Academy graduate who has ended up at Tottenham, even though there's a few teams in between. A lot of Ajax players do end up at White Hart Lane, and if he's one, if Andre Onana is one, or if their fullback is Mazraoui, I think his name is, if we can get any of them, it would be great. But it's with this new management team coming in now, and Mourinho seeming to have a different style, a different approach to everything than he's ever had before. Things are going to be so unpredictable, and it's just almost impossible to guess what's going to happen with them. But if I had to say, I don't think Hakim Ziyech is one that will happen. Bradley saying, I think we should cut our losses with Eriksen, offer him for a swap deal for Gareth Bale or Isco. And that seems to be the general opinion at the moment. People wanting to, just get in, recoup a small fee for Christian Eriksen this window. And, if it is going to be reinvested, that would be great. But if we're only going to get about 20 million for him, it's not something that you wouldn't get a ready-made replacement for him. Now, there's been a number of swap deals kind of mentioned. The main one, the first one would have been for Kalidou Koulibaly, the Napoli centre-back, but his price has been, Napoli have priced him at about £120 million. So I don't think in any swap deal that's going to happen. The other ones are Gareth Bale and Isco from Real Madrid, who I think someone has mentioned there as well. Bradley saying, yeah, swap for Bale or Isco. The swap deal for Bale has been mentioned quite a bit over this window. I was trying to look up here and see if I can get the story that I was talking about. There's one, Football.London Paul Robinson has suggested Tottenham should sign Gareth Bale in a swap deal with Christian Eriksen. But there's a few there, the express.co.uk, goal.com, as.com saying Bale could go back to Spurs in Eriksen swap deal. And as far as I'm aware, AS are I wouldn't say an incredibly reliable source, but they have been known to get a few things right. It seems rather fanciful, but Tottenham may be willing to hand Gareth Bale a route back to his former club by sending Eriksen to Madrid, and this is from last week. And look, it's no secret that Real Madrid are trying to get Gareth Bale out of the club. It's been happening for a year or two now, ever since Zidane, I suppose, came to the club initially. He doesn't seem to get on with Bale, and he does want to let him go. But I would love to see a swap deal for Gareth Bale. It is said that the La Liga giants from Madrid would receive £25.5 million as well as Eriksen in a deal that could reunite Bale with the club he left in 2013. So 25 million plus Christian Eriksen, which would bring it up to about 40 million given the valuation we have put on the player. It would be great to see him back, but I can understand the kind of people who are hoping we don't do it, because he is very, very injury prone and he's on about £600,000 a week with Real Madrid at the moment. So whether it would be a case of us completely smashing our transfer sort of strategy or wage budget and giving him what he wants, or trying to get him to take a major wage cut. I think both of them will be really difficult to actually complete. But, if we can get that done, it would certainly be a really good move for us. As for Isco, I don't know. Again, we've been linked to him for 3, 4, 5 years in a row now. It's one that you kind of feel like if it was going to happen, it would have happened by now. And he's a fantastic footballer, one who's not getting much game time in Madrid. It seems to be he's in and out of the team quite a bit. He's a really good player, very similar to Christian Eriksen, I suppose, in his style of play, but one who maybe renowned for being a bit better than Christian Eriksen. Unfortunately, that's just not one that I think is particularly realistic at this stage, given how long it's been going on for, and nothing has happened with it just yet. Ron Swanson asking, what's your thoughts on the investigation into racism from Spurs fans at the Chelsea game being dropped with no evidence being found of racist behaviour? And this is news that has come out in the last couple of hours. Let's get the article here at Sky Sports to make sure I get that one right. And as I'm sure you've all heard by now, when we played Chelsea at the new stadium back before Christmas, Antonio Rüdiger claimed he was racially abused by some Tottenham fans in the second half of that game, shortly after his incident with Heung-min Son. And a couple of days after, Tottenham had said they were looking into it, and they couldn't find any evidence of this. And it's come out now in the last couple of hours. The Metropolitan Police has ended its investigation into the alleged racist abuse of Antonio Rüdiger during Chelsea's game at Tottenham on December 22nd. Rüdiger was seen indicating he had faced racist abuse around the 63rd minute of the game, which led to the Premier League's anti-discrimination protocol being used for the first time, with 3 announcements made on the PA system warning supporters against racist chanting. But after conducting an investigation into the matter, both the police and Spurs have found no evidence to support the allegation of racial abuse. And they've gone reading out the statement. They've analysed people's body language. They've used professional lip readers. They've analysed everything that every fan did from the moment they came into the stadium to the moment they left. And today they have decided to end the investigation because they can't find any evidence into the kind of back up Rüdiger's claims. Now, I mean, it's kind of hard to sit here and give out about Rüdiger or claim he's completely made this up, or he's just looking to cause trouble, because at the end of the day he may be mistaken. He may have thought he heard something, or may have thought he saw something. But I think it's good the fact now that the police have come out and said that there was nothing there, because it clears Tottenham fans first and foremost. And the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust even let out a statement over the last couple of days saying that if there was nothing there, the police needed to just come out and say it. And I think they said clear the reputation of Tottenham fans. And I know there are a lot of people saying that they're kind of bringing up a headline from a couple of years ago where Antonio Rüdiger claimed he was racially abused in a game in Italy, but it turned out that that wasn't true at all. And saying, it's the second time he's done it, and he needs to be punished for it. And I'm sure there will be they'll look into it some bit to see where he's got his claims from and whether or not he made it up. But we can't really sit here and say that he made it up for sure, because he may be mistaken. And I don't think we can look into those things that happened in Italy, because we know how poor the Italian FA and the Italian police are with dealing with racial abuse and all that. There's been so many stories over the last couple of months about them. So it is difficult to kind of figure out where this is going to go now. But it's good, I suppose, that the Tottenham fans have been cleared of any wrongdoing. And We Are Tottenham TV actually posted a video over the last half an hour or so about this. I'm sure they go into a bit more detail than I did. But if you want to go over and watch that, I'm sure they'll explain it a lot better than I did. Jay Spurs saying get Calvin Phillips. Calvin Phillips is an outstanding footballer. Personally, I don't know why he's still playing with Leeds in the Championship. Kind of after their promotion campaign was ended last year, I did think he was going to leave, and Tottenham were one of the teams who were interested in him. He's having a cracking game against Arsenal now at the moment, apparently. But he's going to cost a lot of money. I think £40 million was the price that was going around for him last summer, and I imagine it's only going to get higher as he improves in the player and gets more experience. He could be the answer to our defensive midfield problems. Obviously Soumare being mentioned as well. The fact that there are so many defensive midfielders being linked with us, it may just be a sign of, I suppose, the media recognising how poor we are there, but it could also be a sign that we are actually looking to strengthen in that position, which wouldn't surprise me at all. But he would be a great player to sign, but I don't know if he would be top of the list of priorities for the club, because he is still only playing in the Championship, and when there are players like Soumare out there who is attracting a lot more attention and will have that sort of link with João Sacramento and some of our backroom staff, given the time they spent together at Leeds, I think Soumare would probably be a better option for us right now. Gary Shaw saying, can we really make the same mistake and sell Eriksen when most of our midfield is injured? We made the same mistake selling Dembele too early for peanuts. I think with Eriksen, it's just a case of getting something back from the transfer out, because I don't really think it's worth 20 million keeping him for another 6 months. I know a lot of our midfield is injured, but Eriksen will be more attacking when our problems at the moment are in the defensive area of midfield. And if we do get rid of him, if we do get maybe 20 million in, we could potentially get rid of him in a swap deal, which would bring in a replacement straight away. But it could help us fund a move for Thomas Lemar or Paco Alcacer, the Borussia Dortmund striker, who is available for a loan now. Personally, I think it would just be better to get rid of him this window, or this January transfer window. I don't think it's similar to the Dembele situation, because Dembele, right up until his last few appearances for the club, he was a really important player for us, and he's probably the best in our team. And he kind of kept things running from the middle of the park, whereas Christian Eriksen, his performances have been really poor over the last couple of seasons, and I think it's a very different situation between the two of them. Kostak is saying injury-free Bale will be phenomenal. Jay Spurs saying I think Bale is too old, and Alexander saying Bale will retire soon anyway, and we have Mora. Jay Spurs also saying, Matt, you seeing how Bielsa has got Leeds playing? They play better football than us and most Prem sides. I haven't watched them in a while. I watched them quite a bit last season, and they were playing really good football, and I suppose fairly similar to the way that Pochettino had Tottenham playing when we were at our best under him. They do play outstanding football, and I was shocked last season when they failed to make it up to the Premier League. But I think this season will be the year where they do make it up. They're, I suppose, known for doing so well for the first maybe 3 quarters of the season and then throwing it away. But they're top of the table now, 9 points clear of third place Brentford. It's kind of hard to see them messing it up from here. The only problem I think they have at the moment is the fact that Bielsa said he will be leaving at the end of the season. He was initially signing a 1-year contract, and then when he failed to get him up last year, he said, 1 more year, we'll give it a go, and whatever happens, I'll leave. So it'll be interesting to see who they get in and how they actually cope if they do get up to the Premier League. It'll be hard to keep the same sort of football there as what Bielsa has put into the club, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of managers willing to go in there and take that job and kind of hope to continue to build on what Bielsa has done. Kostaka saying, should Skip be given a chance? I think it's the same situation with all the young players at our club right now, and they should be given a chance, but probably not in the Premier League, because we're in a situation now where we need to take every single point that we can and hope that we can make a late push into the top 4. Players like Oliver Skip, Troy Parrott, Kyle Walker-Peters, someone who I think has been in this situation now for 2 or 3 years, where we've been saying, we should be given a chance in the first team. And there was a few periods there where we thought he would become a consistent player in our first team. Each of the last 2 or 3 seasons, he started a lot of our games in the early stages of the season. And even though it was because of injuries in that position, he was still in the team, but he did play well. I remember at the start of, I think it was last season, he played the first game against Newcastle and got man of the match. And with him especially, it's always felt like he's been really close to making himself a consistent name in that team. But he just hasn't, and now he's just still in that same situation. Skip, Parrott, Carter Vickers now coming back from loan, Jaffet Tanganga. There's a lot of them that do deserve game time, and with the form that the starting players right now are showing, you'd have to imagine they're not too far away from getting their chance, because there was talk of Pochettino making a massive change in that regard before he was sacked, that he was about to just play the kids in the Premier League to teach the main players a lesson and say, look, you may be the best players of these clubs, but if you're not going to perform on a weekly basis, you're not going to keep your place in the team, and we will make changes where changes have to be made. But I imagine it'll take quite a long time before Mourinho gets to that stage, and hopefully he will turn around our form before then. But I do think Skip is definitely a player who deserves a chance, because he, I suppose maybe similarly to Walker-Peters, has had a bit of time in the first team. And again, even though it was down to injuries, when he did get in there, he played pretty well. And I know he had some poor performances. I know he had, he made some mistakes. But he's a young player, and he's going to do that, and that's how he's going to learn from it. But he's certainly one that, if we're not going to be playing, we should be playing him, we should be loaning him out, and we're just not doing that at the moment. So it's only going to hinder his development as a player, and it'll be interesting to see how Mourinho actually deals with that, if it'll be the same or different to Pochettino. Alexander saying KWP should be starting, Paul saying he's not the answer. Jay Spurs asking, do I like Mourinho's football? As you say, it's early days, and I don't think we've seen anywhere near what Mourinho wants to see from his team. So we can't really judge this and call it his football just yet, because this is entirely Pochettino's squad. Mourinho hasn't made any changes to it, and as much as he says he likes it, there's no way it's the ideal squad for what he wants to do at the club. Now, as for the few sort of tactical tweaks we have seen from him, the main one that was a bit more effective in his first few games in charge and has seemed to have faded away in the last couple of weeks is the usage of Serge Aurier in right back, and we're playing that four at the back and then almost pushing Aurier on into a right wing position and bringing the left back in as a third centre back, making it effectively a 3-2-4-1. It's a really unorthodox formation, but I don't know how, in the way that he did do it in the first couple of games against West Ham, I'm thinking Olympiacos and maybe Bournemouth as well, it worked really well. And as we've been talking about, Serge Aurier is really weak defensively, and getting him high up the pitch into that almost right wing position is a good way to use him. It may be a situation where it's just Mourinho trying his best to not make Aurier defend, but it could be something that he was looking to do regardless. I know he was speaking before he took the Tottenham job when he was working with Sky Sports. He suggested a similar sort of tactic for Arsenal, and with them dealing with Hector Bellerin out injured, they had Ainsley Maitland-Niles in right back, and he's not a natural right back, he's more of an attacking player, and he suggested the same thing, pushing him on into a higher position and letting, I think it was say, Kolasinac in left back drop into that centre back role. So with the way he was talking about it there as a sort of a tactic that would help help you out if you have a really bad right back, maybe that is how he feels about Serge Aurier, and maybe that is why we're looking into signing Max Aarons or Norda Mukiele. But I really like that, what he was doing with that three at the back and Aurier pushing on. It gives us, it makes us a lot more dangerous. You have players like Lucas who can just float anywhere around there. He can stay wide if he has to, or he can drop in the middle. And when you have four players in that space kind of between the defence and the midfield, one player in there causes a lot of problems, but four, it can really confuse the defence. And aside from that, I don't think we've seen a lot from him that you can call his football at the club. We've been playing that long ball quite a bit, which I suppose has been brought in by him, and it's working really well with Toby Alderweireld. As I see Paul there saying we need Andy Carroll for the Toby long ball. I'm not sure Andy Carroll is the option, but that Toby long ball is definitely something that has been working for us. It was something we saw quite a bit a few years ago with Dele Alli making those late runs in behind the defence, and Toby Alderweireld picking him out so much. And that's something that has started again. He scored the goal against Bournemouth, I think, and he's been creating opportunities, making that late run in behind. And Toby Alderweireld, we know he can pick out a pass from centre back, put someone in on goal. And those personally are the two parts of Mourinho's football that I do like. But I don't like the lack of urgency that we're seeing, the failure to build from the back to the front in a neat and tidy footballing way. But I don't think that's Mourinho's football. I think that's more the really strange lack of ability and just really poor form that our players have shown for quite some time now. So I don't think it's, as Kostakis says, it is too early to judge Mourinho. No chance saying Aurier makes too many mistakes, just like Foyth, which again is the problem that we have. Just right backs just don't work for us. Alexander saying Yusuf Attal, another name that was thrown around in the summer as a potential right back sign for Tottenham. He plays with Nice at the moment. Now this season he has been pushed on quite a bit, and he's been playing more as a right winger, and I've seen him play on the left as well, but he is predominantly a right back, and it's where he's played the majority of his career before now, signing with Nice at the start of last season. I personally can't say too much about him because I haven't seen that much of him. I don't know that much about him as a footballer, but I mean, if the links are there and if the interest is there from the club, then it must be there must be some truth to it. There must be some he must be a good player, I suppose. J Spurs saying, who do you want in January? It's kind of hard to say because the players obviously that we want are not the players that we're going to get. I'd have loved to have seen that Paulo Dybala deal be completed this month, but that's not going to happen. I'd love to have seen us take that last step and bring in Bruno Fernandes. That's not going to happen. I'd love to see us sign a right back, maybe on a higher level than Max Aarons or Mukiele, but that's probably not going to happen. I'd like to see Eriksen replaced with a stronger midfielder. That's not going to happen. I'd like to sign another centre back because you're looking at Jan Vertonghen. I wouldn't say he's past it, but he's certainly coming towards the end of his time at the highest level. Toby Alderweireld, maybe not so much. Davinson Sanchez hasn't been performing well this year. There's a lot that we need, and if I had to prioritise maybe 2 or 3 positions, I would say bringing in another midfielder and a right back, and if the money is there, then bringing in a centre back. But unfortunately, it's just not going to happen. Gary Shaw saying we need a miracle for Saturday, which, to be honest, even a miracle I don't know would do it for us. It's going to be a painful game to watch, I'd imagine. Noel Chan saying Dele needs to simplify his game and he will be much better. He loses possession when he does flicks that don't go anywhere. And look, Ali was a player who really benefited from Mourinho when he first came in, and he was playing outstanding football right from that first game against West Ham. You know, he's been grabbing goals, he's been grabbing assists, but he seems to be kind of going back to the player that he was under Pochettino for the last couple of years. And I mean, obviously that's really disappointing. It's not what we want from him. But it's these flicks, when he tries to be too fancy, it just doesn't work out for him. And I'd say he's a really similar player to Paul Pogba in that he's a really talented footballer. There's no doubt about that. But he tries to overcomplicate things, and when he does, it's when he looks at his worst. When he keeps it simple, when he does the things that he knows he can do, he's a much better player. And I think that's what Mourinho needs to get into his head now. Just because you've had a few good games doesn't mean you can go out on the pitch and try to be Cristiano Ronaldo, because, I mean, he's just not. And he needs to just keep things simple and do the basic stuff. And when he does, he is a really good footballer. THFC saying Andre Ayew has been linked. What do you think? I haven't heard anything about those rumours, but even if it was true, he's not the level of player that we should be looking towards. I know he scored a really good goal for Palace the other week, but I wouldn't say he's a player that we should be looking towards at the moment. I'd like to think we're aiming for better players right now. Also asking about Mitrovic. Now, there were some rumours over the last couple of days that we actually made a late bid to sign Mitrovic in the January transfer window, in the summer transfer window, and we're looking to revisit that this month. I suppose what Paul was saying a while ago about Andy Carroll getting him for the Toby Long ball, I think Mitrovic could be a player who would be used in a similar fashion, but will probably be a better signing than him. Mitrovic seems to score quite a bit for Fulham, and I think it was at Newcastle before that. It didn't quite happen for him, but again, I'm not sure he's the level of player I'd like us to sign, but it wouldn't be the worst signing in the world if we did get him. Quickly as well, I just want to say, kind of remind you what I said at the start of the stream. I'm hoping to get to 2,500 subscribers by the end of this January transfer window, so we have maybe 3.5 to 4 weeks to get that done. And I know it's a big ask, but if I do get there, I'm going to be doing a giveaway. I haven't decided what I'm going to be doing just yet, but I will be giving away some cool Tottenham merchandise. So if you haven't already subscribed and you want more content like this, and plus hopefully we can do that giveaway, please go ahead and subscribe now. I do these Transfer Talk live streams. I do match previews, reviews, and breaking news videos as well. If you have enjoyed this stream, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. It really helps me out. And as always, thanks for watching.